Please introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Youri. I'm part of a duo called Rainmen. It's well known in the hip-hop scene in Montreal. I'm also the founder of the HitStory platform and also third project manager.
Oh, I've known you for a while and we've worked on several projects together. But me, honestly, growing up, I think I was in high school when I heard, your music group, Rainmen, and I do think I had one of the albums somewhere. I think it was a tape. So before we jump into all the innovation and all the things that we want to talk about, content creation and unified reality, because that is what we do on this show. So on this show, we connect the digital to the physical and the physical back to the digital. How? By making the digital better because of the physical and making the physical better because of the digital, right? It might sound complicated, but it's not. It's really easy. We want to combine both of these together. So unified reality. IRL plus URL equals UR. All right. So in the first segment of this show, we're going to jump into the beginnings, right? So your musical beginning, Rainman. I want to know about your early influences.
Yeah, so I shouldn't start about talking influences without naming Wu-Tang, of course. Like, Wu-Tang for us is the ultimate influence. And then after that, you can talk about Mobb Deep, Nas, like CNN.
So we have the same influences then.
For sure.
So, okay, Wu-Tang, Nas, well, NYC basically.
East Coast.
So you weren't into West Coast too much?
Just a little bit. Of course, Snoop Dogg, like when he released that album, Doggy Style, and also with Dr. Dre, The Chronic. That was something that grabbed our attention, but a lot less than what came out after from the East.
We're going off subject, but not really. It's part of our culture and who we are. We love hip hop. So to me, it's more like New York was grimy and LA was gangsta. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Well, how did it happen? How did it all happen? Like, you guys were young. How old were you when you actually started Rainman?
So it was back in 95, so we were about 16 and 15 years old. So me and Ultra, like, we just met in an underground show. We were both in separate groups. So it was just a basic talent show happening. There was a lot like these happening around that time. So we met, there was a connection just by speaking together. And he asked me if I was making beats. I said, yeah. And we could work together. And the day after, we just performed on a show together. And it was a rainy day, but heavy rainy day. So we just came up with that song, and it was based on After Sunshine Comes the Rain. It was all made organically, naturally. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was our slogan, basically. After Sunshine Comes the Rain, and the name came after that.
Rainman.
Exactly.
That's pretty. I didn't know that, man.
Yeah.
It's good. And going back to, let's say you guys were 15 and 16, man, that's crazy. And you guys got a record deal.
True.
And am I wrong that you guys made the album in French and English? Tell us a bit more about the record deal in English and French.
Yeah.
And back then, I think it wasn't like it is today. Now there's people our age that have record labels, but back then it was totally different.
Yeah, true.
For you guys to get a record deal must have been hard, right? So tell us about how you went with the record deal and what was behind doing the album in French and in English.
Yeah, so when we started, because of all our influences, even though we were French-speaking, basically, we were rapping in English. So when we had that first record deal proposition, and first of all, before getting into that, that was at a video shoot of Dubmatic, that we were just des figurants.
You said it in French and I forgot it now. But shout out to Dubmatic. You guys actually put some sort of dot on the Montreal map.
True.
But, yeah. So you guys were
we were
part
there.
Of that
yeah,
video
exactly.
clip.
So we're there, and we can see the scene where Ultra is about to mess up one of Dubmatic's guys. So We were there, and then we just gave our demo to Vincent Aigret. 6 months later, he called us back and said he has that opportunity. But the opportunity was to release an album in both French and English. And at that time, because we were mostly rapping in English, but we were starting experiencing also verses in French. So it was okay for us. We accepted the proposal, and we came up with those two albums. But we had to change names. Even though our slogan was After Sunshine Comes the Rain, the name was Wretched Prophets at that time.
In English, right?
In English.
Oh, that's
yeah.
I remember this.
So Rainmen was okay to use as a transition to do both languages because the pronunciation in French was still okay, Rainmen. Right.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So we did that, and we released an album simultaneously in both French and English. I think that was the first time and maybe one of the only times that was made because we were going in studio, recorded both verses in French and English, and released that after that.
I don't recollect anyone actually doing that. Not from here, that's for sure. For Canada. Well, maybe I'm wrong. You comment, you correct me if I'm wrong. But that's to me, it's a huge achievement at 15 and 16, you know, to have a not a double album, but an album in English and French, and for it to be distributed in the stores with a single. Then you guys went on tour, and, you know, a bunch of opportunities later. Obviously, the market in Montreal is not as big, and France wasn't as attentive to us back then. Even now, you know, if there wasn't no internet, I don't think France would ever pay attention to Montreal's French rappers. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so I really wanted to talk about the music because this gives you a real background of a artist, a creator at a young age, and that you had to go through all of these things, right? So that gives you, I think, a strong backbone to understanding the music industry and being a recording artist, right? So I call everybody creators. We're all creators. I write code. I do 3D. I don't rap or write. I do write poetry sometimes, but I call us all creators. But in your case, it's a recording artist, you know, and because it's another category where it's treated differently. You guys have your own platforms, right? Spotify. Currently, there is no platform for 3D people, let's say. Like, there is no place where I could buy and sell my 3D assets, let's say, or stream them. Like, what does that mean for 3D, right? But for music, there is lots of platforms.
True.
And so before we kind of go into the history of all that, because I want to talk about it, I want us to go into HitStory.
Yep.
So several years ago, I met Youri. Again, you know, we used to know each other, but I was at this conference, I think, C2 Montreal, and we saw you, and you showed us, I think, the MVP of HitStory.
Yep.
We were very interested, so we started working with you, and we were doing some coaching and consulting back and forth. You were helping us, we were helping you. Tell us about HitStory.
Yes. So I think it's important to put that emphasis on the fact that I've received a lot of knowledge from you guys, and I think there's an alignment also in the mission in terms of similarity. Like Genius XR, the way I see that is that you guys empower creators in general, and HitStory, it's music creators, in fact, and we want to give tools also to those music creators and help them to be known across the world. So there's a lot of learning that I did from you guys, and I'm very thankful for that also.
Thank you.
So at that time, I shared what was my vision on that. So it was about doing some matchmaking with beatmakers and vocalists or rappers, we could say. And to have the public doing those matches and me producing those matches. So let's say that you would download an app and match an artist that you know with another one. And then after that, have a song produced from that. So that was the principle that I applied.
It's really, I love the concept. HitStory, right? So it's the story of a hit.
Yeah.
So you could build a whole story around that hit.
Yes.
But let's say I'm a beat maker or a producer. You're a vocalist, a rapper. we get matched. So
Yeah.
now so that's our collabo.
Exactly.
And HitStory creates the campaign around this, some content. And then eventually, I think your goal was to automate all this, right? Where people could match with each other and there's AI behind it. So there's matchmaking with either vocalists together or beats, production, a beat maker and a producer is not the same. So I don't like to belittle producers. So I'll call them producers. Okay, so and how did that work out? So I know we did several things. We even did during COVID, like concepts where we filmed, Rainmen versus SP with different campaigns.
Yeah.
How did all of it, where are you now? How did this, what was the evolution?
Yes, so we made about 8 seasons like that. So about 8 songs were produced, and every season there was a different twist to it. Sometimes we did a reality show where we reassembled EDM artists with also rappers, and we filmed them working together and building a new song. So we did 8 seasons like that, and the next step is to release, to deploy HitStory at Togo in Africa. So that's a small French country with not that big of a population, but it's a good incubator to experience some projects. So this is something that I'm working on right now, to deploy HitStory in Togo, so at a different location.
That's really good.
See how it works there.
So currently it was only available in Canada and the US, or just Canada?
The app is available everywhere since it's on the Play Store and App Store, but the marketing that we were doing was...
Yeah, so you have local marketing, yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So that's a good strategy, to go into smaller markets, figure out what works, what doesn't work, and sometimes some of these smaller markets or different markets have bigger opportunities, right? So sometimes... I like to, let's say, compare it to the internet connection. So in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Or even the Middle East, even Asia, parts of it, like they leaped from not having the internet to then having a cell phone connection.
Yeah.
However, us here in the West, we went from no internet to a dial-up connection to then high speed at home and then to the cell phone.
Yeah.
So that leap, it's energy that they didn't have to do, and it's a different market, meaning that over there, you're not going to tell someone, go home on your laptop. It's like, watch it on your phone right now, if they have the internet.
Yeah.
So these things make it different, right? So you could go into different markets and say, hey, I want to target this clientele. How does it work?
Yeah.
And man, you could sit from here and have clients all around the world. It doesn't really matter. The internet, guys, the internet. That's where you're seeing us now.
That's crazy, because out there, everybody has a phone.
Yeah.
So that's really...
It's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody's on social media.
It's French, right?
Yeah, it's French.
So you're going to be doing you're matchmaking manually, or you're automating it, or you're creating a contest with it?
Yeah, for now, it's a contest. It's not yet automated. It doesn't have any AI features, as we're still in MVP mode. But the goal is to make it bigger and to acquire more resources to have it automated after that.
So if you're in Togo, download HitStory. There's a campaign coming soon, including if you're in Canada. All right, man. And I know that HitStory has evolved again, so we'll get to that a bit later on. But what I wanted to get into is maybe some juicy stuff, like intellectual property and the creator economy. Now, to all you creators out there, I like Youri said before, our goal is to empower all the creators that exist today and the creators of tomorrow. To me, we're all kind of creators, all of us, even if you write text. But we could separate it somehow and say there's the creator that doesn't consider themselves creators. Example, if you take a picture of your food and post it, you might not see yourself as a creator, but someone that does it professionally every day to promote restaurants, they see themselves as a creator. Our goal is to do what? By unifying both of these realities, which is the digital world and the physical world, by doing this, we want to make both better, and we want to empower creators. So in the case of Youri and music, it's about, how do you empower an artist that has a song? Like the first thing that comes to mind is intellectual property, but there's so much more.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what does it mean to navigate IP into music, right? Like, how do you manage intellectual property issues, especially when it becomes digital, right? So you've been through it.
Yeah. I think a beautiful thing right now happening is that new artists, they have been raised with technology. So it's really part of their, their
DNA.
their DNA. And they're also have an entrepreneur mind state that they're applying. So it's really something that a lot of people I'm talking with, that I see that they see value in ownership, also in owning their masters. They see like a potential of like making money from and living from it. So it's a different mindset that like OGs could have back then. So they see also the power of the technology, and also understanding their audience and making moves based on that. So when dealing after that with like a professional record label, without necessarily putting these words on the discussion, still there's an ownership topic in the discussions. So they develop their own selves, they have their audience, they have their branding, and after that they're able to negotiate also with professional record labels and majors. So I think it's a very nice thing that is happening right now, but still there's an opportunity to educate them, I believe.
That's really interesting what you're saying. So what I understood is that a lot of the artists are data-driven, right? So
Yep.
a lot of the decisions are being data-driven. That obviously includes the corporations, the music labels, and the distributors, and even the live showcases like Live Nation. Everybody's looking at data. Now, to what extent is the data flawed, right? So that's one thing that we could have a whole episode on. We won't open that up right now. You'll come back for that. Like, how real is the data, especially in the music industry, right? Like, is there really 1 million views, or did they purchase views? And if they did, is it okay or it's not? Maybe it is okay, right? But I would see it as if you had a demo tape that you would say to the label, I gave out 10,000 demo tapes to radios, but you didn't actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you did give out those 10,000 demo tapes, some of the radios would end up playing you. All right, so IP though, like IP is so vast in what it means, intellectual property, right? Something that your intellect has made. And how do we fight against this? Most lawyers will tell you, you need to trademark your idea, you need to patent this, you need to register that. From my experience, most of the big tech companies don't do it. Mm-hmm. I haven't done it a lot of times too. Yeah, we'll patent or we'll trademark, let's say we'll TM a name.
Yep.
But the concept of what the software is, well, it beats the purpose. If I go and patent it, now everybody knows what it is. And it's not, we've seen good softwares not function, bad softwares function. The products that you use every day are not perfect at all, but you still use them and you pay for them. So is it marketing that drives you to consume it? Most probably. But we won't get into that. So intellectual property, I think, needs an episode on its own. Like, this is so deep, and we could get into generative AI and what does all that mean? Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff there. But trying to connect IP to the creator economy. So you reckon that a lot of artists want ownership.
Yeah, true.
And what do they call it? They call it ownership, masters?
Masters, I would say this is something that is part of their vocabulary.
So when you got signed when you were 15 or 16, did you ask for your masters? Did you know about masters?
No, man. At that age, we only thought it was about rapping and doing shows. We weren't at all educated like I wish I was.
But let's say even if you wanted to, where would you go? Right?
Yeah.
Library?
But when you're able to, because at that time, let's say we didn't have any financial resources, so it would have been difficult. But I think we were still in position to negotiate with them. Maybe we gave too much at that time. I would say, like, even if it's not your masters, it could be your copyrights, basically. So, like, there's also the publishing part that you can keep, because those publishing companies, they do not do a lot. Like, they're very passive in terms of doing some placements. And,
they're not actively placing your music. So tell us a bit what publishing is exactly.
Yeah. So whenever you have a song and you have your own copyrights, you've written the song or you've made a beat, by default, you're really the owner of those copyrights. But whenever you declare that to the collective companies, like, for example, SOCAN, which is the most known here in Canada, but there are others as well. And in other countries, like, for example, in France, there is SACEM. In the United States, there's BMI, ASCAP. So you're mandating those companies to collect the money that is from radio stations, from movies that reproduce that. So whenever you find a publishing company, they can declare your songs to those collection companies. They can also do promotion for you and search for music supervisors in movies that can place the songs in movies and commercials. But you can also do that yourself, because, like I said, those companies are, for the most part, very passive. So you can go in conferences and look for music supervisors and do yourself your placements. And where it can be very significant is that you have a certain percentage that is given to the music publishers. So it makes a very big difference. If you give a big part, but they do not do nothing, like, it's better to keep that for you.
So essentially, publishing means that you own the music, and from there you could shop that music. Either every time it plays on the radio, you get the mechanical. It's a fee that the radio pays you to play your song because they put advertising. Or let's say it ends up on a TV show or on a movie. From there, you get some royalty fees. But then if you're very famous, you might say, well, no, I cost this much money. Now, you could delegate this to like a SOCAN or a BMI, and they do it for you, but they take a percentage. And like you were saying, they're very passive. So you could end up doing the work, and they just get a piece for just being there. And it's because there's some sort of monopoly. Artists want to be part of that, right?
Yes, and I think over longevity, like whenever like you have a song that is released like 10 years ago, this is when it takes more value. So
usually it's like that too, right? So let's say, you see an ad today with a hip hop song from 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Is it because it's cheaper to buy that song, or is it because it's like vintage and it's cool to buy that song?
I would say because it's vintage. Because there's a lot of music out there, but they make the choice of bringing the nostalgia. So there's really like thinking behind picking an old song. But this is where it takes value like over the years.
So from when you started and what you're seeing now, the difference is that lots of the younger artists are informed. They take decisions based on data. And this is because of the internet, right?
Yes.
Because they have more knowledge and they could distribute their own music. They could test it. They could share it. And they get the direct feedback right away.
Exactly.
That's interesting. And, TikTok is basically the place where A&Rs go, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I won't go too much into all that. We could deep dive into music and what it is, how they make money and all that, but I think we really want to go towards unified reality. So if artists had we are kind of in a place where it could happen, right? In the physical world, they could create their music, and in the digital, they could learn, distribute, monetize. That would be the best situation for artists, right?
This is what they really want, is really to get their autonomy be able to run their business, create and commercialize, basically. So if they can reduce the number of middlemen to their business, they would probably do it for sure.
And they would need some help. So why is it that we could do it with a YouTuber, right? The YouTuber's at home, he has a camera, he creates, he uploads on YouTube, YouTube puts advertisings, and YouTube pays the creator. Now, Spotify does the same. It's just that they don't pay a lot.
Not only they do not pay a lot, but also they have those algorithms from the editorial playlists that nobody has an idea of how they're managed, who's the curators. People do not know. It's really a secret. They have those algorithms that we don't know how they work, based on what are the trends behind them.
So meaning that, okay, so I'm a YouTube creator and all that stuff, and I've been, I've built channels for a bunch of brands. Like, we were there when the YouTube Creator Playbook came out, the first version. Is there a Spotify playbook that tells you, like, what you're supposed to do? And what is it going to say? Like, you need to be commercial. Make a pop song right now.
Yeah. So there's you can find some information, but it's still a lot ambiguous. Like, you can find like some kind of tree, a decision tree is, but it's not really like there. You can feel like there's something hidden behind that. Of course, there's still editorial decisions that is very so.
And who is that editor, right? And we don't know.
Yeah.
And then why are they taking these decisions?
But, well, we all know that Spotify is owned a lot by Universal, of course. So it plays a big part.
Of course, shareholders dictate what the company's going to do. So in this case, I've heard this, and we'll do a deep dive on this another time, but I've heard a lot of artists say, hey, Universal basically signs us, and then they throw us on Spotify, and they don't pay us, and they make all the money. And that's what I've heard a lot. I've heard this a lot. And, the Spotify series, if you guys saw it on Netflix, it seems like the guy had a good mission. He wanted to empower artists, right? That was the goal, I think.
Sure.
And in the episodes, like in the series, he even has his friend. She's an artist, but then she comes and she says, you work for the corporations.
Yeah.
And what about Spotify signing artists? Do they sign artists directly?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. Because that would be even worse, right?
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
They would say, well, listen, I'll give you shine on the Spotify, but you have to sign over all your rights.
Yeah. That would be a very obvious conflict of interest, I'd say. If it would distribute artists, I think so.
So I'm not going to jump into like hip-hop beefs now. There's a lot of stuff going on. But like that Drake song with Tupac and Snoop, generative AI, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of generative AI in terms of audio and music?
Yeah. So this is something I couldn't imagine at first, that you could take a model from a voice and do whatever you want from it. But I find it great that some artists are able to kind of give those models. Like, I know Drake is one of them. Enima also, I think, shared his model.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see that. Well, shout out to Enima, man.
Yeah.
Drizzy too, man. Drake.
Yeah, so it's good also to empower some creators and do some remixes and do some covers. So, but of course, the inconvenient is the how do you control that? So, like it's the same parallel with deep fakes. Like,
so wait, would you give your voice? Like, let's say you're a famous rapper. Would you give your voice, first of all, open source, like you just said Enima did? Would you do that?
I think so. You know why? Because, like, at a point in time, if you cannot control something, you might as well give it away. That's the way I see that. It's not worth to fight on protecting something that people will take anyways. That's the way I see that.
True, and you could actually create some viral stuff if you wanted to, right?
Yep.
A lot of people could talk about it. I'll put it to my creativity, and then you tell me how you would see it. So we're working right now on a few of these with Llama 3 and all that stuff, but models where I could just feed it a small data set, right? So I give it, let's say for the company, Genius XR, give it my logo, a few pictures, the website, here's my latest videos, look at a bit of my history, boom. Now I want to make a new campaign on LinkedIn for volumetric capturing. Create the banner. Even if it doesn't give me the exact banner that I want, it's going to save me lots of time. And then I give that to my designers. But even there, it's happened where the designer's like, dude, I have nothing to change on this. Maybe, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a square out of it. Like, it's like, and the designers now, they're like, I want to be a data scientist designer where I could say, you know what? These are my 500 covers, and I'll feed it there. And then let me create some stuff and save time. Because it's all about saving time, right? Imagine that we would have just been stuck on, how did you do your first cover? You guys actually went to a photo shoot, right? You did a real... Tell me real quick, a pause about how you did your cover.
Yeah, that was a crazy effort. Like that first album, Armageddon, like that was a day that was scheduled. Like there was a team of about 20 people. We had to make a setup with the clouds, and like that was a crazy thing. Like,
and you had like a professional photographer. Not that now it's not professional, but meaning that it was more expensive. You had to book them. It wasn't as much as now. The camera was crazy. Films. It wasn't HD or digital. And then you had to get the film processed. You had to get your picture. Then you had to scan your picture, and then you had to put that in either a very old school computer, or they would just do it by hand.
Yeah, true.
Right? So, and today you could do everything I just said with a smartphone from 10 years ago. Right? Now, what does that mean? To me, that means democratization of creation. Right? So you could create a picture cover way easier. So imagine us saying, no, you can't use Photoshop, or no, you can't use the slicing tool. I just see AI as another tool. Yeah, if you give it, anyways. So how do you use AI right now? Do you use it?
Yeah, ChatGPT is something that is part of like a calculator right now. So whenever I want to save times to write something, I don't waste time anymore. I just prompt it, and it does it for me. Like it's on a daily basis. I don't even think about using ChatGPT. I just use it right now.
That's dope. That's dope. Any image stuff or video stuff you use?
I've experienced that a little bit, but not that much. But people I've worked with are using it constantly.
Midjourney is really good. Sora is really good. And anything from Llama is, well, the the Meta stuff is really good. Anyways, I'll have a list on the bottom of all this. And I would like to jump into it, but we won't. We talked about IP, intellectual property, and we just covered the surface. And Gen AI has a lot to do with IP. We won't get into that now. But meaning that, who owns the voice, right? So I think it would be smart for... labels have already started it, but for the independents to create a bank, and your voice is there, and you own the voice. If someone wants to use the voice, they pay you. Exactly. And if they use it for free, well, we could actually we have a bank that we could check with and say, well, that's Youri's voice. You can't use it. You have to pay Youri. These are all things that we've been thinking about for years. So I think we're kind of good with Gen AI. So you're using GPT, we use it also on a daily. Did you test it with a rap song or something?
Not really. And most creators I speak with, I think there's some kind of taboo on that. People are not proud of using ChatGPT or any like Sora.
You talking about entrepreneurs, or you talking about artists?
Artists. Creators.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
because we use it all the time, man.
Yeah, I know. And there's some recently I was looking for beatmakers to participate in a panel about AI in creation, and this is where I really sensed that people were, let's say, kind of ashamed. They didn't want to share that, but there were a few of them that were kind of proud and very comfortable, because they considered themselves as real creators. and they see that as a tool to help them create. So they wanted to demystify that.
That's good.
Yeah. So a few of them were like that, but because it's still new, we could say, it's still taboo, and it will probably change. It will be part of everybody's DNA.
I think so too. We're just not going to call it Chat GPT, right? It's just going to be something behind that's going to handle stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Now you're an entrepreneur. Like, you signed when you were 15 or 16. Well, who's 15 and who's 16?
Yeah, basically, like, we met at 15 and 16. I was 16, but we signed in 97, so we were about like 18, 17.
Okay, cool. Cool. So you've been doing this for a long time. I consider you an entrepreneur, whether it was from an artist's point of view all the way to HitStory and everything else that you're doing. So, and we've worked together a lot. You're like a project manager that we could hire for a specific project, and you will perform. So that's, to me, you're an entrepreneur. So tell us a bit about entrepreneurship in music and in arts. Like, how do you see it? Has it changed? Is it good? Is it something that you suggest to youth?
Yeah, I think it's some kind of deformation. You have, as an artist, to help broadcast your art, you need to become an entrepreneur. It's a choice that you have to make. And I think that choice is kind of being reduced as we progress right now, because the market is kind of saturated. So you have to have that entrepreneur mindset, or be very well, let's say, have a very good team with you. But still, you have to speak the language of an entrepreneur, be able to understand them, and have your vision. So to me, that's all part of an entrepreneur mindset. So it's not something, if I could, let's say, decide, I would be 100% to my art at the beginning. So it's an adaptation that I've done, really, in order to succeed. But it's not by choice. It's not fully natural. But over the years, because like things have changed, I went into finishing my bachelor in computer science, and like after that, I went into doing consulting. So that artistic part of me kind of, I would say it died a little bit. So
because of the business side.
Exactly. So that happened. So at a certain point in time, I would say I was feeling like being two different persons. So whenever I went with Ultra in the studio, performing, doing shows, and after that, doing some consulting. So when I talk about rap music with people, they would laugh at me. So it was very kind of contradictory. And I think a lot of people live that also when aging and getting to the corporate world and leaving that artist behind you and having your friends still doing it. So let's say that right now I'm kind of, sometimes I'm asking myself, am I more an artist than an entrepreneur, or the contrary? And
which one am I? Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting, because when you started, probably artists weren't entrepreneurs at all. They would go sign. They're just an artist. Some artists, they have labels, but this wasn't a lot. This is a very small percentage. And I'm talking about internationally. It's interesting what you say, like it divides you into two, right? Am I an artist or am I an entrepreneur? And the entrepreneur has to think of money, basically, right? Making sales, paying the bills. The artist has to think of being creative, and they kind of clash, because if you think about money, it destroys your creativity. And when you're focusing on money, if you think of creativity, it just throws you off, because now you're being all fun and stuff. We go through the same, we're coders, 3D designers, and all that. So coding is not exactly as creative, but it's coding. It's like something where your brain is just focused on fixing something, and the entrepreneur has to make sales. He has to have investors. He has to make sales. He has to have clients. There's a whole HR department. He has to hire. He has to have a location. He has to pay for stuff. Like, all of that is a lot of things. And I won't go into all that now, but if I was to say, from the music industry, what is it that you learned the most valuable lesson from the music industry for entrepreneurs?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an entrepreneur, and I haven't worked in the music industry. What is it that you learned in the music industry that could help me as an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm. I think that networking is really like the key in whatever you do, not only for creating, learning from other creators and applying that to your art, but in the music industry, there's something that I find very particular, like it's like a common language. And I find it very, let's say, interesting whenever I apply anything from music in whatever I'm doing in project management. Having some conversations with people about music, it's kind of something that breaks silos completely, basically, because this is something that we all have in common. We all listen to music.
It's interesting. It's really interesting you say that. Richard, our CTO, shout out to him, he always tells me, you know, I bring conversations or I break the ice with sports.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, let's say you're anywhere you are, you could talk about the NFL, most probably, and, you know, and so music also. And I'd say music is even bigger than the NFL. It's maybe like soccer, but music is even bigger than that because it has historical value, folkloric value.
Yeah.
Like, you could connect with a grandma based on an instrument, right? That's really interesting, man. So you use music to break ice, for conversations, for networking. That's a good one, man. And do you go like with a genre of music, or do you go like you ask them, what's your favorite music, or what are you listening to right now? Or is it more like, do you like classical music?
Most of the times it's really based on hip hop, because right now our generation, they were raised on hip hop. So I think people, whenever they see me, they see me as an opportunity to talk about hip hop.
It's funny because remember 20 years ago, I don't know for you, but for me, I've never worked for anyone. I've always been an entrepreneur. I would be ashamed, or even when you said, people would laugh. You listen to Nas, you listen to Wu-Tang, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg. Now the guy invites him to his restaurant. It's like, yeah, we have Snoop Dogg. I'm like, all right, but okay, now it's being accepted.
Yeah,
cool. But you know, I feel some way about it that corporations are like that. But whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool to be hip hop now.
Yeah, true. And the DJs also have a very huge power in creating ambiences. This is something also I'm seeing. Whenever a DJ plays a music in a club, like it can make people meet together or have discussions that will really mark something in time. So they have that power of creating vibes as well.
That's interesting. What about music in offices? Have you ever tested these things? Like when you're a consultant in some of the places, like I think you're at SOCAN or what was it?
Adzisk. Yeah.
Do they play music in the office?
They do not. This is something I never understood, and I launched the idea they should play. I know they are about to move to a new location, but this is something I've recommended them to really.
And then what? Like would you have just a room where it's super loud and everywhere else it's not loud? How would this work? Like, you know, it's really interesting. I'm gonna get into this. I want to see what do we do with music. You know, in our offices, we're for the devs, for employees. Like, is this something that we should be playing?
Yeah, I think so. It should be in the background, really low, and it should be just playing without people noticing it. And whenever they notice it, it's because it's very good, I would say.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah.
So all to you office managers, please play music low and preferably buy it from iTunes because our artists get more than Spotify. All right. I want to, you know, we're about to finish it. We're getting to the conclusions. I'd like for you to give us a few advices for some aspiring musicians and entrepreneurs. So you did say that musicians need to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What are some of the advices? You did mention networking, so maybe continue a bit more about that.
Yeah, so networking, I think a good path to do that is really to get to associations, for example. That's an easy way to get to know people and to meet like third parties, like, for example, I was talking about collection companies. Like we have created that Quebec Urban Music Association for that.
AMUQ, AMUQ.
Exactly. So amuq.org is the website for that, and we do several activities like speed meetings, for example, where you could do a pitch to find a booker to sell really your product. So it's very good for artists, entrepreneurs. So my advice would be to take those opportunities, to believe in yourself first, and after that, talk about yourself, because there is nobody else that will do it better than yourself.
Yeah, if you don't do it, no one will. And, you know, it's obviously, if you look at, Taylor Swift and these people, but don't compare yourself to them. You know, they're just a very small percentage. I know a lot of people that are not known like that, and they make a good living with music. So, you know, like we say at Uverse and Unified Reality, we say you don't need 1 billion followers or even 1 million. With, let's say, just 1,000 followers that pay you, let's say, $100 a year, you're pretty much good as an independent artist. You're okay. Well, unless you want to be a trillionaire, that's different. Okay, so advice to upcoming artists: believe in yourself and network.
Yep.
So I want to jump into a few little things, and I'm really excited to hear about it. So your future endeavors.
Yep.
And I know HitStory has been updated. It's going to be at Togo, but what's next? We want to know what's next.
Because the long-term vision is to build like an incubator where we could develop artists and really launch their career and create that ultimate big hit. In order to get there, what we want to do is to launch a DJ pool. So after like observations, like in clubs and lounges, whenever you go, it's really rare that you hear local music, basically. And I've done many interviews to DJs to understand why. How comes they do not play music? And like beyond their intention, the answer was very simple. It's just because that they're subscribed to pools, like for example DJ City, or like there's thousands of them. They're subscribed to those pools, but they do not find local music into there, like music with like a 8-bar instrumental at the beginning with a local artist. They do not find that. So this is why we want to build a DJ pool where the DJs can find music from around the world, but also local music. Here.
Exactly. And what's the platform called?
So djpool.club.
djpool.club.
Yeah.
Eventually this is going to be in every local market, right?
Yes.
And artists could upload their own music?
Yes, so this is part of the vision, really, for artists.
And the DJs, and then it gets categorized by location, and I guess by style and genre and all that, and then DJs could download it. Exactly. But then eventually you're also going to have some, not generative, but some AI in there, right? Where, you know, it might tell the local DJ, you know,
make recommendations, because that's the power of a pool where you have like really hundreds of thousands of music, but you can have recommendations.
So when you started, because I also paused, by the way, I used to be a DJ, a mixtape DJ, and I fell on pools. So when you started, you had to actually, you know, press a vinyl and ship it to record pools. And record pools had a bunch of DJs under them. So let's say I was part of this, shout out to TJ, TJ's DJ's record pool. So TJ he owns labels. He discovered like the iTunes art, not the iTunes, the super artist that uses not iTunes, but that effect. I forget it now. Auto-tune, sorry.
Yeah.
So he discovered the guy that uses auto-tune all the time. I forget his name too. I'm so sorry.
Lil Wayne?
No, he's also a DJ sometimes. He did a song with Booba back then. He's very popular. He's from Florida. Man, I just forget his name. Do we know his name, Richard? The artist that does a lot of auto-tunes, and he does like all the... T-Pain, sorry, man. So TJ's DJs discovered T-Pain too. So I was part of his record pool. But by then, it had become digital. So when I signed up to him, it was like 2005-ish. It was a pool, and you could download the MP3.
Okay.
Then there was this other company called DigiWax.
Yeah.
And that's how I found out about the real pools. Like, I saw, oh, man, there's a pool in Montreal.
Okay.
And I went and talked to the owner, and he said, listen, I was like, well, how do you get the vinyls? Like, you pay for them? He's like, no. Me, I managed 50 DJs.
Yeah.
And the labels send me the records, and I give it to my DJs.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon that this guy could control, like, who's playing what. He could say, you know what, these ones we're going to just throw them out.
Yeah.
Or this one, put it on top of the stack and tell everyone, you'll play this vinyl next week at the club. Payola, all that stuff, right? But all of that kind of disappeared, right?
Yeah.
When MP3s came,
Yeah.
am I right? DigiWax doesn't exist anymore.
It exists still, but it's probably used less than it was before.
And it's probably old school. The UI UX doesn't probably function. You can't.
It's very simple.
So. And then when Spotify came and destroyed the whole music industry, basically not destroyed, but I'm just, there is no more record pools because even artists and DJs are looking at the playlist.
Yeah, but the ones that are the most popular right now are Beatport and also DJ City. So they have a lot of subscribers right now. And it's just because they find the DJs find versions that they would not be able to find on the Spotify.
So you need exclusives for you to be really on top. And I remember that's what TJ did. And just so you, because I have to talk about this, it's really interesting. But I used to do the mixtape stuff, and TJ would say, "Hey guys, I'm with Big Mike. Let's say, send me your drop list."
Okay.
So I would say, "Hey, tell Big Mike on the mic to say, yo, Montreal, what's up? I'm with DJ Genius, on the mixtape, blah blah blah," and then I would get that.
Yeah.
Because of that drop.
Yeah.
I would put all of Big Mike's new songs. Okay. Why? Because I had his drop.
Yeah.
So now maybe that's something that we could bring back.
Interesting.
I'm telling you, drops work because it promotes the DJ, and the DJ is now incentivized to play the song.
Yeah.
If you go, I don't know if Crowd still does this. Shout out to my bro DJ Crowd. When I used to go to the club and he used to be DJ, he still is in all of the clubs, but I haven't been. He would put all the drops. We had this crew called Genius DJs.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he would drop it like, yo, it's Busta Rhymes with Genius DJs. And the crowd's like, oh, my God. Yeah. And then he pops Busta Rhymes' song. So that, to me, is a way to incentivize that.
Chase.
So I think you should put drops in there.
Very good idea.
And you kind of force them. And if they don't want to do each DJ, they could do cities.
Okay.
Yo, this is Lil Jon. I swear I got this drop once. Yo, this is Lil Jon with my boy D. No, he would say it in a way where, yo, this is Lil Jon. I'm in Montreal with my homeboy DJ from Montreal or whatever.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? He wouldn't say the DJ's name, but he would make it sound like if and then you hear Montreal, so you're in the club, you're like, dude, he was with Lil Jon.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you were Lil Jon? And like, yeah, and let me play his song. Bang.
Yeah. And radio shows, they do that too, right?
It started with radio shows, and then the guys from the radio, like Clue, Funkmaster Flex, all these guys took the radio and put it on a CD, and they started selling it.
Yeah.
And then the pools, like TJ would say, hey, I have an exclusive from T-Pain.
Yeah.
Right? So now his pool becomes more exclusive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, do you want the new T-Pain song before everyone? Or they would get exclusives 5 days before everyone. So that's what you're going to have to work on there.
Exactly.
But I think, you see, our missions really match. If you empower the DJ to play the song, then you empower the artist indirectly.
Yep.
So now you have to tell the artist, listen, you have to help me empower the DJ. So let's say if they're not that known, they'll do whatever you want. So you say, hey, every time you upload a single, you have to upload these drops and these things.
Yeah.
And these things are part of the campaign, right? Because basically that song is their single.
Yeah.
And the single is part of a marketing campaign, right? So now the single with all these other things help you promote the song.
Exactly. So basically it's just about helping us breaking the record, basically. So giving us whatever they need, like in terms of metadata, in terms of format, in terms of drops, etc.
Like I've done this. Like I've broke records when mixtapes were more. So Paul Wall.
Yeah.
With TJ, I was on TJ's forum, and then Paul Wall was there, and I said, "Dude, I'm in Canada, and I distribute easily 10,000 CDs of each mixtape." He's like, "Dude, let's do a mixtape." Genius DJ Paul Wall hosted the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we sold it, we were selling this. And why did he like it? Because we only put one song of him, and it was a single, and we were telling people, go buy the album.
That's crazy. Because this is what happens in Miami. Whenever you go in a club, the DJ would really force the song to get liked by the people.
And all the DJs, they would be on the same sync. And this is, I tell you, TJ, because TJ is from Florida.
Yeah.
I tell you, he broke I'm a Hustler. Like, he did all that stuff. Yeah. I'm not joking. Yeah. Like, you in that era, you would go to Miami, any club, it was Rick Ross.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. And then it's like, but why? Like, well, dude, he's from here. Why are we not going to support our own people? And our goal is to sell records. If he wins, we win. We're all winning. And they did.
Yeah.
There's a guy he's not from Montreal, but he has family here. Lex Promotions, have you heard of him? Shout out to Lex. I haven't talked to you in like 10 years, but I just remembered. Yeah. I know you work with Rick Ross, and you guys are going to be in town, so holla. That's it, man. So the conclusion is that djpool.org. Club, sorry. Yeah. djpool.club. Yeah. That's where it's all going to happen, and the goal is to empower the DJs, empower the artists, and for them to all be in sync. Man, thank you a lot for coming to the show, man.
I appreciate it, man.
And, well, thank you for everyone for watching, and we will call this a wrap. Unified Reality with my friend Youri Dominique. Take care, everyone.